The following is a paid program sponsored by TriVita. TriVita Wellness presents Wonderful You. You were created in God's image to be His temple. Your unique genetic blueprint is a miracle capable of adapting to the many challenges that you will face. He designed your body with over 75 trillion cells and essential body systems to heal, renew, and restore so you can not just survive, but thrive. You were born with purpose and God's purpose for your life. Welcome to Wonderful You.
Welcome to Wonderful You. Today we have a special program unlike anything we've done in the past, so you will not want to miss today's very important message. I'm Bronwyn Eisen, and with me is the founder of TriVita Wellness, Michael Ellison, and Dr. Paul Burnett, Director of Wellness Services for TriVita. If you are experiencing pain, chronic infection, sleeplessness, or swelling, you may be at risk for chronic inflammation, which is also known as the world's greatest health risk known to humanity. And this insidious silent killer may be affecting your life. But how would you know? Well, today you will hear about the causes of chronic inflammation, what it means, and how you can overcome it and even manage it. Most importantly, you'll hear how you can get your free bottle of Nopalea, a natural dietary supplement made from the Nopal cactus that is scientifically shown to reduce inflammation with its powerful anti-inflammatory benefits that has helped millions of people with chronic inflammation. Plus, you will receive 2 valuable guides for free: the Harvard Medical School Guide, which is all about understanding inflammation, and TriVita's very own Inflammation Health Awareness Guide. Both give guidance on how you can live an anti-inflammatory lifestyle with healthy recipes and how you can manage this silent killer and so much more. Paul, what can you tell us about chronic inflammation?
Well, I can tell you this, that a silent killer is something I want to avoid in my life. You know, awareness is really the key to change, and if I'm not aware that I need to make a change, then I think I feel fine. You know, I'll go into my doctor, well, how are you feeling? Well, I feel fine. But there's more to it than this, because there's something called chronic inflammation, which is really what we're going to talk about, which is the silent killer in many cases. And what I want people to understand is that you could go to your doctor, say, I feel fine, but maybe you had bronchitis that year. Maybe you had encephalitis that year. Maybe you had colitis that year. Maybe you have arthritis. Well, what do all of those diagnoses have in common? The word itis on the end of those diagnoses. That means inflamed, inflammation of the lungs, of the brain, of the heart, of the pancreas, whatever that is. And a lot of people aren't aware of that. They're not aware that, oh, well, wait a second, that is inflammation of that organ of the body. And what's happening is that chronic inflammation, not healthy inflammation, which I'm going to explain in a moment, but that chronic inflammation is now influencing the function of those cells into an unhealthy state where they can't do the things that they were designed and purposed by God to do. So what I want people to know is you have an immune system. It's not an organ somewhere. It's everywhere in your body, and it is constantly fighting to do the things that it needs to do to keep us healthy, to keep us strong, to keep us doing the things we love and our purpose of doing, to keep those cells working the way they're designed to work. But what can happen over time is healthy inflammation can then convert itself into chronic inflammation. This is the silent killer. This is what we're talking about on the show today. And so this can show up in many, many ways, and we're going to be talking more and more about this as we go through this program today.
Yeah, Dr. Paul, let me just for a minute address to our viewers that we are not in this program. We're not diagnosing, we're not treating or disease or preventing disease. That's not the issue. The issue is to deal with chronic inflammation. That is a part of, in NIH, if you go on National Institute of Health, they call it a mechanistic process of the immune system. Well, it's kind of like, if I may, just for a minute, it's kind of like having an army. And the army says, our sole purpose is to protect. And any foreign invader that comes in, we are going to search and we are going to destroy. And that's what the immune system does. It's amazing, okay, how the immune system is so intelligent. But here's also what happens. It doesn't change its purpose, because it can also turn on healthy cells when it is in a chronic state. And that's what we're talking about today, is the danger and the harmfulness of chronic inflammation.
Right, and so we're talking about pathogens, right, that can get in our bodies. This immune system is fantastic at going after those things,
Exactly.
dealing with them and getting them out of the body. There's many other functions as well, such as toxins that can build and a wide variety of other things. This immune system wants to take any foreign invader and say, get out.
Yep.
You're not paying rent. You're getting out of here. You're not contributing to the quality of what we're trying to do here. You are a detriment to that, and you are robbing us of vital resources that we need to make this body do what God has designed it to do. This goes beyond what you could describe. Scientists today are still trying to understand the vastness of the immune system and what it is capable of with the right balance of nature and the right balance of nurture. And lifestyle is a key. It is an absolute key to fighting chronic inflammation. I must sleep. I must eat a healthy diet. I must do these things, and I must manage how I feel throughout the day. I'm telling you today, all of you listening, stress in and of itself is an immune robber. And we've got to learn that. We've got to understand that. We've got to do that self-care part. Because if all we're depending on is a medical system to deliver something, there's so much more. You can become your doctor's best friend and doing the self-care efforts, simple things, drinking enough water, eating an anti-inflammatory diet, managing your day-to-day stress. There's so many things that we can do. Stop smoking, for heaven's sakes. If you're smoking, stop, because it's very inflammatory to your body.
And if you don't sleep, start sleeping. That was my start.
That's right.
I mean, I couldn't believe what happened to me and how inflamed I got. I mean, I was in such horrific pain that I couldn't function. I couldn't run anymore, couldn't jog anymore, couldn't fly fish anymore, couldn't golf anymore. I'm basically disabled. And what my physicians told me is, Michael, because of sleep deprivation, because of stress, okay, you have put yourself in this condition, and you will have no quality of life, and you will have a premature death if you do not change the way you think about health. Well, I say that to you as a viewer for two reasons. Chronic inflammation is serious. It's harmful. It's debilitating. It's a robber. If you got a robber coming to your home, call 911, right?
That's right?
If they're in your home, I don't know what you do next, but I know 911 is a good place to start. Well, what's a good place to start today? Is change lifestyle. You'd be amazed at how God so designed you and what can happen. We're not examining, diagnosing, treating disease, but we are declaring the amazing body that God designed you with and your immune system and how to support it.
Yeah, and I think what I hear you saying, Michael, in your story is, I take inflammation seriously. Remember, itis. Itis is inflamed. I take inflammation seriously. When I take inflammation seriously in my day-to-day activities, I can begin to discover that I can reduce chronic infections. I can reduce the amount of toxins that I carry in my body. I can do a better job of taking care of my teeth. I'm telling you, teeth are a big, big deal, because it's an access point for all kinds of things to get into our bloodstream. You know, other things that we can do is our immune system can deal with airborne allergens better and food sensitivities better and a whole wide variety of different things. But we've also got to understand that we can be detrimental in our lifestyle when we're operating in high stress, when we're operating in poor activities, right? When we're operating in eating foods that, I mean, listen, the times have changed, but you and I and all of you viewers, we have not changed at all. And so we're introducing ingredients into our bodies that it doesn't even recognize. So eating whole foods is such a great, great way, and really going the distance with that and understanding every effort I make to fight inflammation in that way is beneficial to my overall life.
Yeah, well, you give a lot of good examples of what can happen. So for you at home, we want to give you a yes or no quiz quiz that you may be at risk for chronic inflammation. So we'll start with, do you spend a lot of time by yourself? That's yes or no. Are you feeling overwhelmed with your daily activities? Are you getting at least 7 to 9 hours of good sleep per night? Do you have open sores, painful red spots, or swelling? Has it been more than 30 days since you exercised? Do you eat processed foods more than fruits and vegetables? And are you overweight or have excess fat that may pose a risk for your health? So all of these are yes or no. And if you're answering yes, you may have to take a better look at yourself and think, gosh, do I have chronic inflammation?
And the good news is you can. What's going on is you've got low-grade chronic inflammation running under the surface, and it's affecting the functions of those cells. And so there's hope, and I'm here to be the greatest advocate for you today that I know how to be. Not only can you employ these self-care things that you can do on your daily basis, but we've got a wonderful product that is science-based. And listen, there's all kinds of products out there that you can go after. I don't know of another product that focuses on chronic inflammation that has gone through double-blind, placebo-based studies, just like Cleveland Clinic would do, Harvard Medical do them, the same exact process of going through those studies. This product has done so much and shown so much, because we've had thousands and thousands of people say, this has done this for me and that's done. Michael, thank you for doing the work that it took to go and say, we're going to go and validate these, scientifically validate. And what it's been showing is that this can actually support a normally function immune response of the proper dose of inflammation to resolve the issues that we're dealing with. It can also help us have less reliance on medication. So many of us are taking medications to manage pain and soreness and redness and all of these kinds of things, but it also has shown increased joint mobility, okay, range of motion, flexibility, lowering inflammation, and I'm going to save the last one for the next segment of the show. I want you guys to keep watching, because there's something even more powerful that this study was shown to do as well.
Yeah, it's an amazing product, and we've witnessed it firsthand in a lot of cases. One in particular that I'd like to share today, and many of you will recognize the name of James Robison. Mm-hmm. Well, I've worked with the ministry for roughly 40 years, and James and Betty just are marvelous people. But one thing that I noticed about James, I mean, he's a big old boy, you know, 6'4", and he's can hit the ball a long ways as far as when we were golfing. But James always wore, okay, this brace. And I mean, I saw a time when he reached out and wanted to pick up a glass of tea, and he was like, oh, I mean, the pain was so, you know, impactful as far as on him. Well, he had such a remarkable response and healing from the product of Nopalea. I asked James, and I said, James, I said, you know, would you mind sharing, we're going to do a special program. Would you mind sharing your experience, okay, with Nopalea? And he said, yes, I will do it. So I am really thrilled to share with you the story from James Robison.
Let me tell you about a miracle I experienced. My friend Michael Ellison, and he and his wife are our 40-year plus best friends. And we've tried to share God's love with people all over the world who are in need and who are too often overlooked. But Michael said to me, he said, James, I believe that we don't take good care of our bodies. And he said, I think there's so much more we can do. And like Dr. Conard has said many times, we need to add years to people's life, but also life to people's years. If you have a life, but you don't have a meaningful life, and you just live a pain-racked life, it's not a whole lot of joy. So he said, we've got to try to help people get healthy. And then one day he told me, God showed me there's something out there in that desert that we need. And he said, we found the Nopal cactus and the effect that it had on people south of the border in the way they used it. So we studied it. We did scientific research on it and found out that it had betalain. It had one of the greatest inflammation fighters possible. And you could get it in a juice. And so we made Nopalea. Well, let me just say this to you. I had so much pain with what was called tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, that I could hardly reach over and pick up the phone without pain. I couldn't pick up something to drink, a glass of tea or anything, without it hurting me. It was very difficult to do anything without wearing a tight strap around below my elbow to be able to do anything. And then Michael shared the Nopal cactus juice with me, Nopalea. I began drinking about that much in the morning in a glass and that much later in the day. And within a matter of months, I'm not exaggerating, I had my elbow shot up more than you could shoot it up anymore. You couldn't put any more cortisone in it, they told me. You've had all you can take. And in 3 months, I was a different person. I have now gone more than 10 years with no pain. Not better, well, totally well. And all the joints in my body where I have what doctors say is arthritis in every joint, I have no joint pain. I can't explain it. I'm telling you, it did something to the inflammation in my body that was undeniable. Now, that's just my testimony. But that's been more than 10 years with no pain, not better, not some better, gone. And through my body, I can tell. Matter of fact, if I miss, for some foolish reason, a few days, I can feel it creeping back that fast. So I'm just telling you what it did for me. You might want to give it a try. I say about that much in the morning, that much later in the day, and give it a try. See if it helps relieve your pain. I hope it does like it has mine. I believe in Nopalea because it worked for me.
Well, what a great story that James has, but you have a remarkable story.
Well, my story is about the discovery of
That's
Nopalea,
right?
right?
That's right.
And it is remarkable. You know, I've said it for years. I believe it is a gift from God. And the way that it happened is, at the time, I went to Mexico and I was with the Seri indigenous people. And people down there, they live in a really harsh, extreme environment. And it's cactus and rattlesnakes and scorpions. I mean, it's harsh. But one night we were sitting around a campfire and there was 9 of us. And I had a translator because the Seris were talking in their language. And as we were sitting there, all of a sudden there was this moment of revere and sacredness. And it was like, what are they talking about? I mean, I feel something, and it's like, well, they're talking about the ancient people. And they're talking about how strong that they were and what athletes they were, what warriors they were. And they said, and they gave all the credit to the plants of the Sonoran Desert. And I'm telling you, right at that moment, it was like, God, there must be a plant in the Sonoran Desert that would grow so prolific that we could harvest and we could help people as far as with their health to be strong, okay, to be like the warriors of the Seri people. Well, I flew home and immediately made contact with Arizona State University and the University of Arizona, and that led to a study on National Institute of Health about the indigenous people of the Pima tribe. And they have the same DNA. Part of them live in Mexico, part of it in the USA. That started in 1965, and it still continues on. But what was the contrast is in Mexico, they lived like men were in their 70s. They didn't have diabetes. They didn't have obesity. They didn't have heart disease. Women even live longer. And here, they found that they had a much different mortality rate. I mean, men lived to late 40s, okay, and women a few years longer. They had obesity, they had diabetes, etc. Well, that led us really then to understand that the plants of the Sonoran Desert, what was that? And that's how we discovered the cactus of the Nopal cactus and its anti-inflammatory benefits. Well, Harvard has continued on in regard to this, this story of understanding inflammation. But here's the point that I want to make. In that study, and what we know about the product here, is that we have influencers in our life that cause chronic inflammation. And in Harvard, I want to read this to you. It says pro-inflammatory influencers, air pollution, chronic stress, environmental contaminants, inactive lifestyle, obesity, processed food, saturated fats, sleep deprivation, which I certainly know about in my past, smoking. These are all lifestyle. And that's the bad news, but it's also the good news. And the good news is you can change your lifestyle and you can have an amazing response to how God designed your body. Dr. Paul, you know about this.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, this is a gift from God. I affirm and confirm that. I have seen so many people's lives touched, moved, and inspired by these botanicals found in Nopalea. And one of the things that I did not mention on the front of the show was I mentioned that there was one more thing that study showed. And that study showed that it would reduce something called C-reactive protein. C-reactive protein is a marker for chronic inflammation. And it is stunning to see how this influenced that inflammatory marker for those who were elevated in their C-reactive protein. I want everybody to understand that C-reactive protein is a significant risk factor, not only for chronic illnesses like we've been talking about, but specifically cardiovascular disease. We've all heard about cholesterol. Cholesterol is so dangerous and all of this. I'm telling you, half the people with high cholesterol had cardiovascular events. The other half did not have cardiovascular events.
Science.
But all who had high C-reactive protein had significant risk for cardiovascular disease. And Nopalea has been shown to reduce C-reactive protein in the blood. And when you start to think about the blood, that's not just in your shoulder, that's not just in your knee where you feel that pain, it is throughout your entire body. So by reducing chronic inflammation in your blood, you are reducing the incidence of these debilitating conditions to develop over long periods of time.
And in that test, they will want to test below 2 and preferably below 1, and I'm 0.8. So I'm thrilled in regard to Nopalea and
well
what
done.
it's done. That's for sure. Well, for those of you who tuned in late, I mean, you just got to see this story about James Robinson. I mean, James and Betty, they're just special people. They've got great outreaches all over the world, and James had a remarkable story. I'm going to let him tell this story for those of you who have just joined later on in the show today.
Let me tell you about a miracle I experienced. My friend Michael Ellison, and he and his wife are our 40-year plus best friends. And we've tried to share God's love with people all over the world who are in need and who are too often overlooked. But Michael said to me, he said, James, I believe that we don't take good care of our bodies. And he said, I think there's so much more we can do. And like Dr. Conard has said many times, we need to add years to people's life, but also life to people's years. If you have a life, but you don't have a meaningful life, and you just live a pain-racked life, it's not a whole lot of joy. So he said, we've got to try to help people get healthy. And then one day he told me, God showed me there's something out there in that desert that we need. And he said, we found the Nopal cactus and the effect that it had on people south of the border in the way they used it. So we studied it. We did scientific research on it and found out that it had betalain. It had one of the greatest inflammation fighters possible. And you could get it in a juice. And so we made Nopalea. Well, let me just say this to you. I had so much pain with what was called tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, that I could hardly reach over and pick up the phone without pain. I couldn't pick up something to drink, a glass of tea or anything, without it hurting me. It was very difficult to do anything without wearing a tight strap around my below my elbow to be able to do anything. And then Michael shared the Nopal cactus juice with me, Nopalea. I began drinking about that much in the morning in a glass and that much later in the day. And within a matter of months, I'm not exaggerating, I had my elbow shot up more than you could shoot it up anymore. You couldn't put any more cortisone in it, they told me. You've had all you can take. And in 3 months, I was a different person. I have now gone more than 10 years with no pain. Not better, well, totally well. And all the joints in my body where I have what doctors say is arthritis in every joint, I have no joint pain. I can't explain it. I'm telling you, it did something to the inflammation in my body that was undeniable. Now, that's just my testimony. But that's been more than 10 years with no pain. Not better, not some better, gone. And through my body, I can tell. Matter of fact, if I miss, for some foolish reason, a few days, I can feel it creeping back that fast. So I'm just telling you what it did for me. You might want to give it a try. I say about that much in the morning, that much later in the day, and give it a try. See if it helps relieve your pain. I hope it does like it has mine. I believe in Nopalea because it worked for me.
Well, that is a truly remarkable story. But what I want you to know is, there is hope out there, and we do have a great product that's great science-based. But I want to get into something I have not yet told the viewers today about the double-blind placebo-based study that was done for Nopalea. It actually reduces chronic inflammation, the chronic inflammatory response, the unhealthy chronic response of inflammation in our bodies. And how we were able to show that is there's a marker that is used by a blood draw, a simple blood draw, that can be done to measure either you have healthy immune response and inflammation response or unhealthy. So it is one of the main markers for measuring that. And that's called C-reactive protein. Now, when your body's inflamed, your liver is going to produce a lot more of this protein, and it's going to be found throughout all of your blood. So this inflammatory marker, this protein, could be causing harm to other areas of your body. And what I was able to understand is what is clearly documented in this wonderful guide that you're going to receive from Harvard Medical School, Understanding Inflammation. You're going to understand so much when you understand this. I wish I would have had this way back when. I had no idea, and many of our viewers may not have any idea as well, that you may be putting yourself at greater risk for other chronic illnesses. This guide is really going to help you better understand that.
Yeah, and not only that guide, Paul, but Harvard is so much on this. There's another one that they have. It's called Fighting Inflammation. Well, fighting inflammation is important for us to know. If we can't win, there's no reason to fight. Mm-hmm. All right, there is a reason to win, and you can win. The other thing I just want to say in regard to, what we're talking about, we're not talking about diagnosing, treating disease.
That's right.
Or preventing disease. That's really important for you as a viewer to know. That's not where we're going. The immune system is a part of your system. It is a natural function to inflame, but not chronic inflammation. And that's really important for us to know today is you can manage, you can conquer. Harvard's all over it. They say you can conquer, and your lifestyle, which includes what you take in, right, from nature, what God gave to us, yeah, you can win.
Well, after hearing today how chronic inflammation is a silent killer and how it may be wreaking havoc on your life, right now is the best time to manage your health by getting your free bottle of Nopalea, the free Harvard guide that we talked about, and TriVita's very own Inflammation Health Awareness Guide. Why would you even wait any longer? Call right now to receive this exclusive offer and start conquering chronic inflammation before it conquers you. Thank you for joining us, and God bless.
The preceding was a paid program sponsored by TriVita, a Bible-based and science-supported ministry of wellness for purpose, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Your wellness is our purpose and God's purpose for your life.